Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. Today I wanted to talk about power and how to tell how strong somebody really is. There is a lot of confusion about how to become the strongest, where to put all your resources, how you can tell if somebody's actually stronger than you, and how you can best improve your total hero power, which is where your real power comes from. So let's jump in. I wanted to start off on this page here. When you're looking at individual power, this is a cumulative of your total hero power, everything else, plus all of your troops that you have trained up. So if you don't have full barracks, your total power is going to be way lower than maybe somebody else that has a bunch of troops that maybe isn't as strong as you. So total individual power is not a very good rating scale when you're looking at how strong somebody is. Granted, if you have somebody that's a mega whale or somebody that's just way ahead of you, yes, there's going to be a power gap there with total individual power, whether they have full barracks or not. For instance, Crazy Deerfly, she's at 525 million, and the next person is at 405 million. But let's switch it up. Let's go to total hero power here. And this is where you can really tell how strong somebody really is. And I do want to throw out a warning. Just because somebody has a total hero power that may be stronger than yours, or maybe you have a total hero power that is ahead of somebody else, doesn't necessarily mean that you can beat them in a fight. And we'll get into that in just a second. While we are on this page though, let's talk about this, total hero power. So this is everything from your actual hero levels, your gear you have on them, if you have exclusive weapons, if you have something like the Overlord, and the stat increases, all that stuff factors into this. And this is what's going to tell you how strong somebody really is. And as you can see here, I'm down at 22. And for the most part, everybody around me is very similar in strength. I'm not going to sit here and just dominate any of these players. We're probably going to be pretty close to each other. Now, however, if you drop down, say into around 60 to 70 here, where these players, they have hero powers that are 108 million and below, I probably should have a pretty easy time in comparison when fighting them. So when you're looking at total hero power, this should give you an idea of how strong somebody really is versus looking at their total individual power. And this is a really good way to see how strong a server is. If you click on a server, check their rankings, check their total hero power, and that'll tell you if they have a lot invested in their heroes or if they're just sitting on a lot of troops. All right, so this is where a lot of people get blindsided. When they're looking at this and you say, okay, I have 124 million hero power. The next guy, he's got 125 million, almost 126. Our marches have to be pretty close, right? Well, not exactly. The next player could have everything invested in their first team, and they could have a march that is maybe 3 to 4 million power stronger than mine, but then their next couple marches aren't nearly as strong. So that's where people get into trouble sometimes. They think, okay, I'm close to somebody. That means I'm probably able to beat them. And that is where we get into the debate about how to level up teams, and if you just go all in on one, or do you invest in a second or a third. And a lot of that just depends on how strong you want to be. For most players, investing everything into their first squad is going to be your best bet. Because when you think about it, when you're attacking somebody, you're usually sending your best squad out and you're trying to burn through them. And if I hit somebody with my first squad, which is 42.7 million, and their first squad is say 36 million, I'm going to blow through that first squad, probably going to blow through all three of their teams if they have all three of their teams on the wall. It's going to be an easy victory for me. And I might even be able to turn right back around and hit them again. And that allows you to just dominate the situation, where if I sat here and I tried to make all three of my teams about even in power, and I spread out my weapon shards and my gear and everything, and I had, three teams that were, say, 36, 37 million, something like that, and I went to hit the same player, my first team isn't going to do as much. While my second team, probably going to do about the same amount of damage, my third team about the same amount of damage, and they'd still have a hard time attacking me. In that situation, having one dominant team that is absolutely just going to run through their defenses is a better scenario. And that is why a lot of people go all in on one team. And the reason my air squad is not, at 44 million, 45 million is because I held on to running tank for so long that I put a lot of weapon shards into my Kim. Same thing with my Murphy. I put a lot of weapon shards into him. And all of their skills are pretty much maxed out. I did all of that before I switched to my air squad. So I am playing catch up in a sense on my air squad. My diva is almost level 30, but instead of having Carly level 20, she's only level 10. And then same thing with Skylar, she's only level 10. Had I not gone all in on my Kim on my other account, on my other March, I could have invested that all in here, and I could have had Diva already up to level 30 with her weapon, and then I probably could have been working on getting Carly up to level 20 on her weapon, which would give me a pretty big boost because when you get it up here, it's going to give you 7.5% attack, defense, and HP, which is a huge bonus. It's bigger than a base skin. So when you're fighting with somebody and you're trying to go head to head with them, 9 times out of 10, if your first squad is significantly stronger than theirs, you're going to really have an easy time with that situation. Now, if you are not as strong or maybe even weaker than them, but you have some good teams, in your second and third position, and they hit your wall, they might get through your first team, they're not going to get through your second team, something like that. That's not bad, especially in game modes like Winter Storm, Desert Storm, to where you're going to have to go to a point and then also defend your base. Having multiple strong squads is beneficial in that situation. However, most players can't afford to spread their resources out and still be the best they could be. For instance, this is my first squad here. I know the power looks a little bit different, but because this is the second hit that has happened on my first squad while defending, and this guy's second squad, which is tank, he's trying to hit my first squad to knock it out. He hit it once, failed. He hit it twice now and has failed. And that is the difference of having a super strong first team versus having your power spread out across all your teams. You're able to take hits like this and dominate holding a point. Or the flip side to that is then I was left vulnerable on my main defense because his first squad was able to just tear through both my first and my second defenses before I could get my first team back. If this player had put all of his resources into his different teams and spread it all out and say this March was only, 39 million, I probably would have done more damage with this tank squad. And then my missile squad may have beat him. I don't know. But he wouldn't have gotten away with as few deaths as he did on his side. So that's the difference. When he maxed this out, he maxed everything onto his first team. He was able to run through both of my squads, my second and third squad, without any big issues. And if you look at this, so this is his power rating. He is at almost 129 million hero power. And if you remember, I was closer to 125 million hero power. So he's got almost 4 million hero power on me. And that is mostly because of his first team is so strong. But then his second team is weaker than my second team, but his third team is a little bit stronger than my third team. So it's all just a matter of where you put your power. And so while hero power is going to give you an idea of whether that's a player that you can fight evenly with overall, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can just either dominate their team or they're just going to absolutely dominate your team. It could be a close fight if you're within a couple million. It just means that they maybe have invested in their teams a little bit differently than you did. All right, so how do you increase hero power? Well, just click on your little power icon, and that's going to tell you right here. You need the hero levels, decorations, and building stats. The building stats is from your center. So your tank center, aircraft center, missile center, all of those add up in here. Obviously, your gear, your hero tier, which is their star level. So if you have, all max 5 stars, then, that's as high as you can take them. And then you have your hero skills. So if you have your skills maxed out or not, exclusive weapons, and then wall of honor. And then the one thing that doesn't factor into hero power, but is also a significant source of power, is going to be your drone. Your drone level skill chips, drone components add a ton of power to your team that isn't always calculated on the hero power tab. And then going into your tech, there's a few different ways to upgrade heroes. One directly via the hero tree, or you have units, special forces, and then you have your masteries. Those are all going to give you direct power increases, where things like siege and the defense fortification trees, those are going to give you added bonuses when you're either attacking or defending. So those aren't necessarily all the time stats. They're just in those scenarios. Overall, hero is probably going to give you the biggest power increase, but the cost and the time to do so are extremely high, especially later on, the further you go into the tree and the higher levels you go. So if I go down here and I'm working on, say, this one at the bottom, it is going to cost me 320 million gold just for this one level, but I'm getting 2% HP for all hero types. And it's going to take me about, with the buffs, it probably takes me about 13 days to do this. So about 2 weeks worth of time. Then if we go to the mastery tree, this is probably a fair comparison. If I go into here and I did this upgrade, it's going to be 149 million gold. And it's given me plus 0.15%. So not 1.5, but 0.15% for each aircraft hero. So if you have 5 heroes, that's going to be 0.75% for your team that it's increasing. So a little under half of the upgrade that you're getting out of the hero tech tree, but it's a lot cheaper and it's going to take you half the time. So early on, when these are cheaper and they're faster, this is a better investment. Going into the masteries, you're going to get a ton of stat increases out of the mastery tree. And then once you start getting up higher into this, and maybe you're not maxed out on your hero tree, you can go back in here and do some upgrades in here. Again, it's just going to be a lot more expensive than what you're getting out of the mastery trees. And then when you're looking at unit trees, these are also very important to do. However, your special forces tree, if you don't have all your hero or if you don't have all your unit stats maxed in this tree, I would recommend going into your special forces tree and doing these first, because they're going to be a lot cheaper on gold and other resources, but they're going to take up valor. So this is a great thing to do during tech day. And then same thing with your aircraft mastery or tank mastery, whatever mastery you're working on. Those are going to be better to do on your versus day. And then working on units and hero on the off days is a good way to do it. Then, like I was saying with your drone, you're going to get stat increases from leveling up your drone here, and then also your drone components. When you click on these, you can see you're going to get reduced chances of taking critical hits by 2%. This is at level 9. And then hero HP and then boost hero HP. So the fixed stat increases a lot, but then the actual percentage, that 10%, is a huge jump. So upgrading your components, you're going to get huge jumps in your hero stats. And like I always tell people, when you get a drone level 5 selection chest, make sure you are selecting the missile component. I feel like these are so hard to get. And if you pick these up out of there, it's going to make upgrading this one so much faster. But you're going to get hero attack, you're going to get skill damage, and then you're going to get a fixed hero attack bonus as well. So it's very important to get this one leveled up. And you're going to get a ton of stats and a lot of damage out of this one. And then you have your centers here. And as you can see, when you level these up, you're going to get your march size increases. So it's usually about 3 per hero, so 3 extra units per hero. And then you're going to get fixed stats like HP, attack, and defense. So these add up over time. So it doesn't feel like a lot when you do one at a time. But when you take something from 10 to 30, you're going to get huge stat increases as you go through all those levels. So don't ignore your centers. And then last thing, if you have the Overlord, this comes out after season 2 if you haven't gotten him already. So after season 2, you'll be able to get this guy. And the 2 biggest power gains you're going to get for your team are from leveling these up down here, because these give you fixed stats for your heroes. And then when you promote this guy, this is going to give you additional fixed stats for your heroes if you look up at the top. The middle section is just for the Overlord, but these stats here across the top add a lot of power to your march by themselves. I did 2 of those promotion levels, and I went from 124 million to almost 124.5 million in hero power. That is how much power the gorilla gave just on those 2 promotion levels, not including all the fixed stats that I got from actually training these up. This is where you get the most power from. And then after you get the gorilla unlocked and you do these upgrades here, these don't really give you much power to your actual squad. It's just for the gorilla. So you're not going to see any hero power increases when you do these. It's only going to be on this screen here where you're doing either the promotion rating or the specialized training. Then I did want to mention your decorations. I know I just did a video on this, but your decorations is where you're going to get a decent amount of stats too. Not so much the fixed stats. Fixed stats are going to be decent, but your crit damage, skill damage, damage reduction, things like that, you can pick up a lot of that power out of here. And that pretty much sums it up. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and I hope you have a great day.